Hello, I'm really excited today to teach about integers. And one of the things that I really like about integers is sometimes students don't have any background knowledge about using integers coming into 6th grade, and that's perfectly fine. I came across a wonderful way, Marianne Foster showed me a wonderful way to help students with especially adding and subtracting integers, which sometimes students have some trouble with. And if you follow this way, it will help set you up for all future math levels, Algebra 1, Algebra 2, geometry, where you're doing combining like terms. So we're going to start off just by saying terms, and we're going to identify some terms. Later on, these terms may have a variable next to them, or x squared, or any other type of aspect to a term. But right now, we're just going to be starting off with positives and negatives. So if we could please write here, how do you know if a term is negative? So everybody write negative. Or a term is positive. So those are the two choices for a term, negative or positive. An example of a negative term would be if you have a minus sign and the number, a negative sign and the number 5. But another example of a negative term could be a minus sign. I'm going to make this just a little bit longer, even though usually we can't tell the difference, and the number 4. You also could be subtracting a positive, and you might even have the positive sign, or you could be adding a negative. So these are the different choices to make a negative term. Positive terms have a little positive sign like positive 6, or plus no sign 8, or plus positive 3. Is there anything else that might make a positive term? Something that would be overall good. This is the confusing part. There's something that is actually good. So I'm going to give you, for instance, say that I gave you 13 problems for homework, and then I said, okay, you're going to take away 3. Well, the homework you might think is a negative thing because you have to put your time into it, but you know it's a good investment, so it's worth it. But if you're taking away a negative, does that make you feel good or bad? Yep, taking away a negative makes you feel good. So subtracting a negative makes you feel more positive. And we haven't used 7 yet. Okay, so these are all the different terms to be negative. This is what they look like. And these are all the different terms showing as a positive. It could just be a positive sign, adding a no sign, adding a positive. But there's also the one instance, what if a number has no sign at all? Is that a positive or a negative? Positive. No sign at all is a positive. Okay, so these are the different instances where you see and it makes a positive term. These are the different instances where it makes a negative term. What do you notice? I need you to turn and talk to your neighbor. What do you notice about all the negatives? What do they have in common? Okay, does anybody have any idea? It has to do with the signs, because we're talking about integers. Every single one of these has something in common. What do you think?
They all have a negative sign?
They all have a negative sign. Now, compare that to the positives. Do any of these have a negative sign? Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
No. We have this one that has a negative sign, but it's also got a minus sign. So when you take away a negative sign, or when you're subtracting, these are all treated exactly the same. So what we're going to use is a special process called circle, label, choose, use. So if you could please circle each of these terms. Don't leave anything out. So the addition or subtraction sign is going to go with the term inside the same bubble. And if it's got one negative, and we're going to put negative, meaning anything that looks like a negative sign. The minus sign also is like a negative part to it, so it's a negative term. One negative is what all the negatives have in common. Here, nobody has one negative because it's two negative signs in the same bubble. Okay, now the rules are pretty straightforward. There are two of them. That's one rule. And that's the other rule. It's abbreviated really fast so that we can write about it and talk about it. But this stands for same sign. Add the numbers. Keep the sign. So an example for that would be if you had -7 plus -3. First we need to circle the terms. So we're going to do circle -7, circle adding a -3. Class, is -7, according to our tree map above, a positive or a negative term? Okay, look inside. Do you see how many little minus signs do you see inside here? 1. So is it positive or negative? Negative. Please put a minus sign above it. Now inside this bubble, how many negative signs do you see? How many? 1. So is this positive or negative?
Negative.
Negative also. So every time you see one negative sign inside the bubble, it's a negative term. So we're going to follow the steps. We're going to add these two numbers together. Everybody, what's 7 plus 3? 10. Good. The answer is 10. But you're going to keep the sign. So we do a little sign trail and we bring it down. So the answer to -7 plus -3 is -10. It's like you owe $7 to me, you owe your mom $3, you owe $10. Okay? Okay. Same goes if it was this example. 5 minus -2. Okay, 5 minus -2. Now I told you we were using a special phrasing. We're going to write that at the top right now. We're going to learn circle, label, choose, use. Circle, label, choose, use. Our first step is always to circle the terms. So looking down here, we're circling just 5. I know you may want to share those negatives with the 5, but you can't. The number is the end of the bubble. So you always make your bubble end at the number and circle everything in front of it. And the sign goes with the number behind. It always goes with the second term. So the plus or the minus sign goes in the second bubble. Now class, is 5, it has no sign. Is it positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive, good. And what about taking away a bad thing? 2 negatives in the same bubble. You can think about in the past when you've been taught about 2 negatives coming together to make what? A positive. This happens also. Taking away a bad thing is what? Positive or negative? Positive. Now, are these two signs on top the same or different? They're the same. So we get to use the same rule because the signs are the same. So we're going to use same signs, add and keep. Mrs. Cross has a cute little song. It goes like this. Same signs, add and keep. Different signs, subtract. Take the sign of the bigger number, then you are exact. It's a great song. It works beautifully. Remember, bigger means absolute value bigger. Like a 9 is bigger than a 7, even if the 9 is negative, because we're going to deal with the signs in another way. So we'll sing that song better when we do the next rule. Okay, so here we have the signs are the same. What are we going to do? We're going to add or subtract, everybody. Add. Go add and add them. What is 5 plus 2?
7.
Everyone out loud.
7.
7. Good. And we're going to keep the sign. What sign is it?
Addition.
Yep, it's a positive sign. It looks like an addition sign. They work the same way now that you guys are getting more mature. You're learning different things. Okay, now we're on to different. So same signs, add and keep was this. Different is going to be different signs subtract. Now, you're going to take the bigger absolute value. Take sign from bigger, and we mean absolute value. And this is where we're going to use the sign trail. We used a sign trail up here also. Okay, and I'm going to make this more color-coded because I didn't think of this before. Ha-ha. You can tell the difference. Okay, so here are some examples. -4 minus 8. And -6. Oh, sorry, those are the same, aren't they? I need to fix that. Then I do minus negative. I do 2. Okay, so we're going to be circling, labeling, choosing, and using. Try these two on your own right now and see how you do. Do the circling first. Okay, check your circles. Let's label. Everyone, -4, positive or negative? +8, positive or negative? Are these signs the same or different? Different. What rule will you use? Different, subtract, bigger. Different, subtract, bigger. That's a good point. We haven't written that out enough. So let's write out in quotes here, different, subtract, bigger. That's what you'll say. What was this one? S stands for same. What operation? Add and keep the sign. Yep, that's same, add, keep, or different, subtract, bigger. Okay, running out of time, so we're going to go pretty fast. Here we have the signs are different. Let's subtract. Take the greater absolute value. 8 is greater than 4, so just say 8 minus 4 is what? 4. Good. Now, is the greater absolute value the 8 number or the 4 number? The 8. We're going to take the sign from the 8 and bring that one down. it's the winner. If you're having a competition, this one has more votes for its team, so they win. Okay, here, -6, is that a positive or a negative term?
Negative.
Subtracting a -2, positive or a negative term? No, taking away a bad thing, remember, is good. Remember the list above with the terms. It shows you two negatives inside the same bubble is positive. Are these two signs the same or different? Different. What rule will you use? Different, subtract, bigger. Okay, what's 6 minus 2? 4 again.